Hello and a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching the brand new edition of India Fights Back with your host, Kriti Mishra. The overall COVID-19 positivity rate continues to decline, fueling hope that the worst of the second wave is over, with more districts reporting a progressive fall in positivity along with increased testing over the last 3 weeks. Apart from the 22 states with over 15% positivity, there are 13 states where the positivity rate is between 5 to 15%. Also, in a new advisory, the government has warned that SARS-CoV-2 virus can be transported through air as well as in the form of aerosols and infect people up to 10 meters away. The warning included in an update general advisory on COVID-19 issued by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor is in line with the latest evidence that suggests that airborne transmission of the virus, especially in enclosed spaces, cannot be ruled out. And for deeper insights on this, I'm joined by Dr. Rakesh Mishra, Advisor, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, and Dr. Sunil Raina, Professor and Head, Community Medicine, Dr. R.P. Government Medical College, Tanda in Himachal Pradesh. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, both of you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Mishra, coming to you first, overall COVID positivity rate has come down, dropped in 303 districts against 210 in the previous week. What does it mean for India's fight against this pandemic?
No, this the news which we have been waiting for a long time, consistent decrease in the cases, because the way the numbers were going, it was really creating havoc. Although the cases are still very, very high, but one thing this shows over consistently for several days now that we probably have reached the peak, and we are plateauing, and hopefully we will come down as sharply as we have gone up, because that is very, very important. We have to see 7-day average. We also have to factor in little bit that whether we are testing enough in rural areas. Those are the matter of concern still. But by and large, the same parameter which were giving us a very sharp rise are giving now the decrease in the cases. So it's certainly good news. But this number, as I said, is still high. So that means we will keep adding patients to the hospitals and so on. So that means we have to still go very actively, very aggressively to choke the virus in multiple ways, which is by social vaccine, which is by testing and quarantine. And those are the methods which we have to continue doing for several days, actually few weeks, and we cannot start relaxing that number as coming down. But it's good news. It gives assurance that things are now falling in place, and maybe worst is over. But we should wait for a few more days.
We have to wait for a few more days, but you made a very interesting line that we have to adopt all the strategies to choke the virus, Dr. Mishra. But Dr. Raina, coming to you, while this comes as a huge breather, but the concern remains about the dual challenge of rising daily cases and increased positivity in 7 states, including Tamil Nadu and the northeastern states of Meghalaya, Tripura, Manipur, Sikkim, Mizoram, and also Nagaland.
Well, I will like to continue for where Dr. Mishra left. Unless and until we develop a multi-pronged strategy to counter the pandemic, we will have difficulties. And if you look at the pandemic, the way it has panned out, it has affected largely the areas which were high on density, which were highly urbanized populations and highly urbanized geographies. It came from there, and once the numbers rose there, it spilled over to other areas of the country. So if in the first phase you saw that the high number of cases were coming from Maharashtra or Delhi, for example, you also saw that in the second phase of the pandemic, high number of cases were coming from there as well. And because of the fact that the numbers grew to a large extent, the spillover was there, and the spillover went into the urban areas, and the fallout spillover went to the rural areas. And the fallout of this spillover is the fact that the other areas of the country will keep showing numbers, if not in the same ratio as has been given by these urbanized populations like Maharashtra, for example, like Delhi, for example, or even for Kerala for that matter. The same numbers will be shown by the other populations across the country. It's not true. It may not be in the same proportion, but the numbers will be there because of the fact that the spillover of high number of cases will be there.
Spillover of high number of cases, that's going to be a concern. But Dr. Mishra, as India's active COVID cases are seeing a net reduction, but as has been warned by the experts, we need to be more vigilant now in the face of decreasing data. What is your suggestion?
Yeah, it's certainly we have to be vigilant, because it is still, if you say 2 lakh is a very, very large number. It is not a small number. Remember, last time the peak was less than a lakh, or about a lakh per few days. So we are still very high rate of new cases returning every day. So although we are in the right direction, although our efforts have worked, the lockdown and other restrictions are helping, but we have to put something in a way that these lockdown and these things are relatively self-imposed. We don't have to wait for the government to declare things. And if we do that, then we might be in a position that the decrease becomes sharper, because in the end of the day, virus can only go from one person to other person by just being in front of each other without protection. There is no other way virus, no matter which variant it is, no matter how high is the infectivity, virus can only go when we allow it to go. So our job now is, as enlightened citizens, as a socially responsible individuals, is to not let the virus go from one individual to other. Whether we have had earlier infection, whether we have been vaccinated, whatever way, we should assume that virus can still go through, and silently it can go through without our knowing, and therefore we have to assume it is around and put the mask and do full really strict social vaccine, and save ourselves, save our friends and relatives with whom we interact, and in this process we'll be able to reach the other side of this peak sooner and make the fall in the number of cases sharper, because that is required. Still, it is a lot of stress on the healthcare system, and 2 lakh cases a day is not something that we can relax. We can be happy that we are in the right direction, but lots and lots of ground to cover before we actually say something more comfortable.
All right, as Dr. Mishra was saying, Dr. Raina, though the reducing positivity rate comes as a good sign, but the progress has to be sustained over the next few weeks. How do we do that?
Look, this is very critical. We are at a critical juncture at this point in time. If you look at the last year's numbers, we hit the maximum number of numbers in the month of around September. September 15, 16 was the time when we hit the maximum number of numbers, and that was around 1 lakh. And then we had a fall from that 1 lakh, although it was a slow fall, gradual fall. We hit the numbers very low at around 9 to 11,000 in the month of February, and then it stabilized. Now, the fact that it stabilized at around 9 to 11,000 was taken as something of a victory, which is something which we should not have done. Now, the same may happen this time. As we are going down, it will stabilize at some point in time. The problem with the pandemics is that the virus causing the pandemic may not go away in day one. It may not finish off tomorrow. It will keep something of it in the environment for some period of time. So as soon we hit a number which is in the vicinity of 9 to 11,000, we need to take care of the fact that we have to reduce it more further. We have to go down below that number. And the methods stay the same. When the numbers are high or when the numbers are low, the methods stay the same. The fundamental public health principles which will take care of these numbers are restrictions. It will take care of if we take care of restrictions, if we take care of making spaces safer in terms of air quality, if we use the vaccines. So these 3 or 4 things will be ensuring the fact that the numbers stay lower. And in that terms, this advisory which has come up with regard to improving the ventilation of the government of India is exceptional, because this is something which we need to enforce in due course of time. Because if you look at the numbers that are coming to us, whatever people say, 80% of infections that happen across the world happen in indoor spaces. They don't happen outside. So most important is to take care of these indoor spaces. We have to ensure the fact that these indoor spaces are safe as far as air quality is concerned, and ventilation and masks, both are the key to ensuring that safety of these air spaces. There have been talks about this aerosols and airborne or droplet-borne. We again need to remember two basic things. That there are two basic types of droplets that happen around us. One is the ballistic droplets that come with sneezing or coughing or heavy talking or yelling, and then there are these smaller droplets which in the form of aerosols, smaller aerosols, which happen because we are sitting somewhere, breathing in air, breathing out air, or talking in slow whispers. Now, the ballistic these droplets, the ballistic droplets may go out when we sneeze and fall on somebody's face, mouth, and it will be picked up, or after some period of time, they may fall to the ground, will be picked up from these fomites and will carry infection. But I'm equally concerned of these smaller aerosols, which stay in the air for a long period of time. The scientists have been debating about which is important, whether the droplets, ballistic droplets are important, or the aerosols are important, or the fomites are important. I think all of these three are important, but the prevention stays the same, making the spaces cleaner, making the spaces better for taking in air. So how do you do it? You improve ventilation, you use better quality mask, and that key will stay with all of us for a long period of time if we are interested in reducing these numbers. Apart from the fact that restrictions need to be taken care of for a longer period of time, we may dilute some bit of restrictions, we may use different types of restrictions at different places, and the vaccination has to be upped as soon as we are able to do that.
Right, those are very important points that you're making about the new advisory that the Government of India has issued. Let me also elicit views of Dr. Mishra. Dr. Mishra, the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India has issued simple, easy to follow guidelines. What is your take? Take us through the highlights of these guidelines.
No, those are absolutely essential guidelines and based on scientific findings. Now, there are several studies that have been done, including from our lab and lab in Chandigarh, IMTech. We have about 3-4 months back done sampling, and we have seen, like in our observation, up to 6 meters we could detect the virus. So now with larger study, it looks like it is safe to stay clear 10 meters if a person is there. But most important thing is the closed space. The aerosols will hang around longer, or droplets even can hang around longer if the airflow is not there. If airflow is there, it's like any smell, it will just dilute and disappear and become ineffective. So most important thing we have seen, for example, in toilets, if the infected person uses toilet, comes out, even after 2 hours, you can see the virus there. So that means because these are very close spaces and in aerosol can hang for quite some time. So therefore, if you are using a public toilet or wherever you go in a constrained place where there's less airflow, you have to be extremely careful. Even a person may have come and gone 1 hour back, the virus may still be there, and you must not remove the mask because that is what is going to protect you. So advice is good that the double mask is even better, and we should avoid clustering, particularly in closed areas, and have the airflow absolutely like we do on our houses. In the morning, get up, open the windows and let the air flow and so on. So like that, if any visitor comes in your house, keep the windows open, keep the fan on, because those will really, mask and all always has to be there. So I think this is very, I had a look yesterday, this advisory is extremely simply put, with there are pictorials, and it's very nice thing, and I think it should be circulated and people should use it, very easy to follow, and it cites also rationale. So anybody questioning why I should do that is very well explained. I think it will be very, very helpful. And this has these are the things I'm saying, self-imposed kind of lockdown we should do. We don't need a police to come and say that you wear mask. It should be our culture. For next few months, we have to adopt these things if we want to avoid loss of life, severe lockdowns, economic problems, and so on. So now this advisory will make it more clear, and I hope that people will take this positively and use it as a part of our culture. Not wearing mask, clustering in closed spaces means you are not good for society, because you are allowing the virus to come through you to others. Even if you may be asymptomatic or vaccinated, doesn't matter. You have to use the mask and follow this advisory very, very carefully. This is very important.
We have to follow the self-imposed lockdown. That's what you're saying. But one of the causes of concerns, Dr. Raina, is that these droplets, these aerosol droplets, as the advisory says, can travel up to 10 meters. That certainly is a cause of concern.
I won't say it's a cause of concern. In fact, I would see it in a different way. Once we have this in our mind, they will travel there. They will travel for 10 meters, or they will stay in the air suspended for a longer period of time. This is demonstrated to us now. This is known to us now. So we need to take up steps to improve on this. So that's something that I see. I see it at some point in time, maybe a year back, we didn't know how exactly does it transmit? How many distance does it cover? We didn't know that. But at least now we are very much sure about how exactly this is happening, how indoor spaces are contributing to transmission of infection. So let's take it in a positive way and find solutions to improve the air quality of all spaces. Now, if we are hitting the summer months, air conditioning will be something which will be common in offices. So how do we improve the air quality in offices which are using air conditioning, despite the fact that we call air conditioning the temperature part, the management of temperature part or the humidity part in air conditioning takes over the replacement of air part of air conditioning. So we are much more worried about improving the temperature in the room, dropping down the temperature in the room, or improving the humidity of room than the fact that whether the air conditioning system in our spaces is doing good replacement of air, or our more outdoor air is coming into our indoor spaces. So how do we do that? So that is something that needs to be taken care of at all levels. People need to be educated about that. So how do you do it in my room, in my space, in my office, if I am not using an air conditioner? There is some sort of an advice on this. So if you are having a fan in your room, that doesn't mean that the ventilation in your room is good. Fan doesn't do good ventilation. So good ventilation means that the outdoor air is able to get into your rooms more frequently than it should when we are using an air conditioning system or maybe just a fan. So maybe having windows opposite each other, open windows opposite each other, having cross ventilation system will improve. Maybe using an exhaust system is going to improve it. Or if I have a table fan, putting that table fan in near to my window and seeing that the air is sucked in through that air fan through that fan and out through the window is going to help. I always say that if you are going into indoor spaces and if you want to judge whether there is enough of ventilation in that room, judge by the quality of the smell that room is offering to you. Nose is probably the best indicator of the ventilation system in a room. So use your nose, see what is the type of air that is there in your room. And if you feel that the smell is not good, that means the ventilation is not good. So that is one of the key principles to be used by every place. You may have visited shopping malls, you may have visited other places wherein we have underground parking spaces, and these are underground parking spaces are closed. If you enter these parking spaces, you will see that they smell horrible because of the fact that they don't have good ventilation. So if you enter rooms, you feel that these rooms are not smelling well, you need to take care of that. Or the other way, I keep telling people, just drop a piece of paper in the center of a room and see how exactly it is flowing. If it is flowing in one direction, that means that the air is flowing. So you want to ensure that the air is flowing in a room, and if that air is flowing, you have a better ventilation. If that air is not flowing, the ventilation is not good. If you look at the houses, standalone houses, that is something that has been happening across the country. Standalone houses have been making ventilators in their doors. So we do have a ventilator in our door and the windows, but these are generally closed if you look at them. So keep them open. This is where the air will be replaced. The warmer, the lighter air will be replaced easily if you have your ventilators in place and they are open. So improving the air quality will be key, and using basic home-based remedies, office-based remedies will improve that. Air conditioning may be something that is not very good at this point in time as far as this pandemic is concerned.
But Dr. Rana, peak summers, and if officers are working then?
I agree with you. The peak summers are there. In fact, what we can do is that we can ask our mechanical engineering systems that if they have used an air conditioning system in our offices or our buildings or our homes, now how do we improve the air quality? How do we insert filters in such a manner that the air quality is improved? So if you have the money, you are using the air conditioning systems, call your mechanical engineering department, tell them to improve the air quality, apart from the fact that it is able to maintain the temperature and the humidity. If you are not using air conditioning, if you don't have the money, improve the air quality by simply keeping the doors and the windows open.
All right, of course, as they say, prevention is better than cure. But another important aspect that I'd like to touch upon, Dr. Mishra, and as you were also mentioning about the rate of infection in our villages. Now, as we know, we have to involve ASHA, Anganwadi and health workers. They have to be trained and protected for conducting rapid antigen tests and otherwise. How do we make this entire approach community-based and decentralized, sir?
Yeah, that is something very, very challenging because the village and town are very different. In village, you can't have lockdown. There is nothing lockdown in the village. There are no roads in between and traffic police and those kinds of things. So we have to use very different way of communication. The advantage in village is that in most of the villages, people spend a lot of time outside and life is not packed in an apartment. It is more open. And closer to, I mean, open to outside environment. So that those are advantages, but people should be educated that sitting and chatting, what we do in the villages in the evenings or in the free time, in a clothes is has to be avoided. And mask wearing when you are opposing someone. So villages always use different kind of towels or something and cover their mouth, even normally when it is sunny or dusty. So they are used to this, but now it has to be communicated very effectively. That I must say, this is a challenge to communicate things in the villages. It's not that they are very smart, but they have to be explained in a different way. You can't explain them in English, or they may not be watching that much of a smartphone and so on. So that we have to have a very different way of communication, and for that experts should figure out ways. This is very really critical time for the villages, because once things go bad, they don't have access to the healthcare facilities that we have in the cities. So the damage will be much more in those places. So to educate them, to communicate with them, to keep social distancing, still are more time in the outside the house rather than the inside. Don't be with other people in a closed environment. Although in villages it's easier to, as I said, to obtain, because most time you do see people sitting outside in veranda or in aerated outside structures of the house. But it is a challenge, and we have to evolve a method how to reach smaller villages, remote areas, and convey this message. It will be so. As you said, there is a system. There are gram panchayats. There are heads of those things. They should be told how to take it to. And lots of people do watch TV, and radio is used more often in the villages. All those methods should be used, and we should really go very, very aggressive, because it is important. We have to protect the villages from getting into grip of this pandemic, because the consequences there will be worse than what we see in the cities.
Absolutely. And of course, our fight also depends on the way or how quickly we equip our villages. Dr. Raina, I'd also like to take your view on this. As Dr. Mishra said, that there is a challenge of communication, removing that hesitancy, ensuring that they also follow COVID appropriate behavior. How do we do that?
To be very honest, I don't see villages as a problem as far as communication is concerned. I've been working in villages, and very lately we were doing active case finding with regard to tuberculosis. And I found that the ASHA workers working in villages were very well versed with the number of patients that had. They would exactly pinpoint to the exact patient who was suffering from tuberculosis. I think the challenge in villages is to establish a connect between the home and the hospital. So that is something that has been there and that will continue to be there. So what I mean by that is that even if I'm able to identify a patient of COVID-19, how do I take him to the hospital? That is probably the key. That will be the challenge. And if we go by the government's guidelines, a few days back, in fact, 3-4 days, the government came up with the rural plan, how exactly they will take COVID management to the ground in the rural areas. They are very good guidelines. But again, the challenge stays the same. How do we bridge that connect? Now, the best way to bridging that connect is to integrate health as a part of community development program. Health should not be seen in isolation. So if we see health or COVID-19 as an independent entity, not as a part of the community development program as a whole, then the challenges will continue to be there. So you have to involve your village pradhan, you have to involve your panchayati raj institutions, you have to involve your health and wealth, this village and sanitation people, you have to involve those who are doing nutrition surveys there, you have to involve ASHA workers as well as the healthcare workers. So it has to be a multidisciplinary team approach at the village level, wherein communication is established by these people through direct contact. You may not be using those technology savvy communication channels to improve the communication there. You have to have direct one-to-one communication modes, which are built around this multidisciplinary team, which consists of everybody who is a part of that village. So that's how it will be possible. That's something that we have been to be successful in past as well. So focus on that. build it as a part of team capacity, build it as a part of team community development plan, it will work. And there we will be advantageous in a position to handle it better in the rural areas that we are thinking of at this point in time.
All right, time for closing comments from both my guests. As the government has issued the new advisory, the cash line that it has used is stop the transmission, crush the pandemic. Dr. Mishra, your closing comments.
You already made the closing comment. The key thing is that we don't let the virus take over, because we are responsible. We know that virus, no matter which variant it is, no matter how infectious the person is, we know how it spreads. Now we know it is low, a little bit more, that it can travel a little longer, but the methods remain the same. We are not only saving us by wearing the mask, by hand wash and social distancing, we are also saving our family members, our friends, because they are the ones who are going to get from us. So the key is in our hand. So there are three things that we have to do. One is that we must practice to most disciplined way the social vaccine. That means mask. Without mask, don't come out of that. I will call it now being uncivil if you come out of without mask outside. Government's job is to test as many and isolate so that virus is restricted and it's not spreading. And now there is vaccine. Hopefully it will become more and more available. If we do these things good, I think next few months we can come out easily. We may not have to worry so much about the third, fourth waves. But if we don't do this, then we will be facing this again and again, and we will go through lots of difficulty and miseries. And if we allow virus to play, it will come with more dangerous versions. So therefore, we have to aggressively go behind the virus by these methods I just mentioned.
We have to aggressively go behind the virus. Dr. Raina, your closing comments.
It's an enemy in front of you, and how do you tackle this enemy? You reduce its area of operation. You isolate it so that it doesn't have an extensive area of operation. Over a period of time, the team with which I work, we developed an acronym for it. How do we control the virus? And we call it a civic duty. A civic duty means A stands for avoid, civic C stands for avoid overcrowding. So crowding should be avoided. Indoor spaces should be avoided. Low ventilation spaces should be avoided. Close proximity should be avoided. Long duration of stay should be avoided. Going without mask should be avoided. Talking, singing in public places should be avoided. Yelling at each other should be avoided. So if you follow this acronym, you are more or less able to create safe spaces. After all, anger is not good, so don't yell at people. That is something that needs to go to everybody. So we need to isolate it. That's it.
So I'm sure even during the pandemic and even after the pandemic, yelling should be avoided. That's the biggest takeaway. And of course, along with the reduction in the positivity rate and the new advisory that has been issued by Government of India. On that note, Dr. Mishra and Dr. Raina, thank you so much for joining us on India Fights Back.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition of India Fights Back. But before that, let me remind you once again to stay safe from the coronavirus pandemic. Remember to wear a face mask and wash your hands and face regularly. And ensure that you maintain physical distancing whenever you're stepping outside. Remember, these simple precautions are all it takes to defeat this pandemic. Take good care and goodbye.